Welcome to the April reveal of our digital dealer exclusive mystery quilt with Kimberbell and Material Girls. Excited to have you back again this month for our exciting reveal. Here was a little reminder as to what we were hinted at for the April block, and here it is. We are going to be stitching some bumblebees. So this project, we're going to make two, but each of these has two hoopings. Okay, we have to make the dimensional wings of our bumblebee first, and then we will be attaching them to the body of our bumblebee. So for the first hooping, you will need at least a 4x4 hoop. In the world of Bernina, we can use the medium hoop, and we can actually do both sets of wings in one hooping. Okay, and I'll show you how to combine designs in order to do that. We will need a piece of wash away stabilizer. So regular aqua mesh is what we use from OESD here at Material Girls in our hoop first. You'll need your light mesh cutaway and your fusible backing for the second part of this design. For the first half, or part one of our project, you are going to need the cream colored thread, and we will need a bobbin that matches that cream colored thread. Doesn't need to be a full bobbin, but at least a partial one for this step. Because our wings are dimensional, we can see kind of the top and the bottom, and we want to make sure that they match, because that stitching is also done over the mylar in the middle to kind of give it some glimmer, but makes it kind of see-through. And you don't want to put some random thread color in your bobbin. It's going to show through your wings. And then we will also use the cream to do our background quilting. With the second part of this project, we will need our large oval hoop and or your small clamp hoop for that portion of the project. If you are quilting the design first. If you're not quilting, you can get away with doing this block in just the 4x4 hoop. But if you are quilting, you will need the larger hoop size for part B. Okay. So part A, super easy. We're going to put wash away stabilizer in the hoop. We're going to hoop the stabilizer, and we're going to head over to the instructions for part A of embroidery. First, though, I want to look at the ability, 1, to save a little stabilizer, and 2, speed up our process. So with this project, we can actually get both of these wings into the one hooping, and that would just be quicker, save us a hooping of stabilizer for that purpose. So we're going to navigate to our design. So I'm going to open my USB stick, and I have that folder marked mystery, and I have a folder that is labeled April, and we're going to open up part A. That is the design that is just the wings. Okay. That's going to bring in one set of wings. We're going to take that set of wings, and we are going to move it towards the top part of the hoop. So you can, depending on your machine and things like that, but all our current Berninas, we can actually touch the design on the screen and move it with our finger, or you can use your width and length knobs over here to adjust the design inside of the hoop. Once I have that design there, moved, I'm going to touch the I to open up my informational editing screen here, and I'm going to choose the option to duplicate. Okay, so I'm going to click the duplicate icon, which is going to take this first design and give me an exact copy, and I'm going to take that copy and move it towards the bottom. We want to make sure there's space between these two designs. Doesn't have to be a lot of space, just so that we can have room to trim and things along that lines. If you do not have the ability to duplicate on your machine, you may have the ability to add another design to the hoop, and you would just hit the plus sign and go out and grab the same design again. Okay, so we have 2 of our wings in the one hooping. We're going to go ahead and we're going to send that over to the machine. We're going to put a hoop on the machine here. I'm going to send it over there. Now, because we added 2 or duplicated this, the process is going to repeat itself twice. I am not going to merge duplicate colors for this project because it's only one color stop. I don't have a problem completing all of one set of wings and then coming back and doing all of the second set of wings. It actually is much easier with the little tool and mylar that we need to do to be able to concentrate on one set of wings before having to worry when the machine finishes up here about it jumping down to the bottom and knocking anything out of the way. So I'm going to work through all the steps for one set of wings and then repeat all the steps for the second set of wings. If you feel comfortable and confident, go right ahead, choose your merge duplicate colors. And if you do that, you can see that the system will do all the placement lines, all the tack downs, all the cover stitches for both sets of wings at the same time. But I'm going to leave that off. And on top of that, when we go over here to my machine, I only am going to have one set of wings in the hoop. I've already made one design so that I could have a sample to show you. So I'm not going to be stitching 2 sets of wings in my hooping. And if this is all foreign to you and you're not at all comfortable stitching and duplicating and all that, feel free to do this one set of wings at a time. All right, we're going to go over to the machine. In my hoop, I have my wash-away stabilizer, and if you're never sure if you actually have wash-away stabilizer and you're unsure of it, you can always lick the corner or run a little corner underneath the sink or spray some water in the corner, and if it starts to dissolve, you're good. You have got yourself some wash-away. If it doesn't dissolve, you probably have a piece of light mesh cutaway, and that's not going to make you very happy when it comes down to when you go to rinse this out and it doesn't wash away for your leaves. Okay, we are going to run the first color stop. First color stop is going to stitch us a set of placement lines to tell us where to put our tulle and mylar. Now, our placement line is complete. So I have that neutral color. I have cream in the top and cream in the bottom. I have, if you can see there, that set of placement lines. I am going to reach into my April labeled baggie. I am going to pull out 2 pieces of tulle and 1 piece of mylar. Here is my hooping again. I have a thread right there. I think I will go ahead and trim that up. I have 2 pieces of tulle and a piece of mylar. I am going to make a mylar sandwich. Okay, in the instructions, they tell you to put down 1 piece of tulle, tape it in place, put down a piece of mylar, tape it in place, and then put down another piece of tulle. And you can do all 3 of those individually, but I'm going to make a little mylar sandwich. So I'm going to sandwich that mylar between the 2 pieces of tulle. And then I'm going to take 1 big piece of tape and tape it in place. Just like that. So my mylar, my tulle sandwich are taped in place. I'm going to return this to the machine. The machine is going to run us a cover stitch, a decorative stitch, and a cover tack down. And we are then going to trim away the excess mylar and the excess tulle from around the edge of our wings. Now, I've come over here and putting it here, I can kind of see. I want to make sure that my tape is not anywhere near where this is going to stitch. So I'm actually going to turn that piece of tape a little. I don't want to get any tape caught in my decorative stitching. It's one thing for the tack down, but when it does the fill stitch, I don't want any of my tape in there because I'm not going to be able to get it out. Once our color stop is finished, we have the decorative fill is done inside of our wings. We can remove the tape and we are going to trim all the way around the outside the excess mylar and tulle from around the outside edge. Feel free to do this one layer at a time, or you can grab all 3 layers at once. They're actually pretty easy for the most part. The tulle and the mylar are pretty much almost perforated, so they almost tear. It's a pretty easy cut to do. Okay, we're all trimmed up. We're going to return this, static, hold on to that. We're going to return this back over to the machine, and we're going to run the final color stop of our wings, and we're going to stitch the cover stitching and the detail around the edge of our wings. Now when your design is finished, you can see we have our satin stitching detail all the way around the outside. We can remove your wings from the hoop. Now, if you combine designs, you'll have 2 sets. If you combine designs, you finished one, go ahead and repeat all the steps to finish the second. We're going to remove it from the hoop. We're going to trim up the excess stabilizer. We don't need to rinse all of this down the drain. We just want to be able to rinse out what is in the wings, but we also don't want to trim too close and clip any wing threads either. You want to be careful. Then, following the instructions of the stabilizer, you will rinse these. Now, the aqua mesh, you can use cool water. You can also use warm water. I tend to use warm water. It just kind of, for me, goes a little faster. So I'm going to rinse this away so that all the stabilizer is gone from around the edge. It looks nice and clean. And then I'm going to lay it on a drying rack, like a cookie sheet, a cookie cooling rack, just so that air flows around it, and let it dry while I prep the next portion of our project. You can also trim up any little threads or anything that you have there. Get rid of those and let that dry before we attach it to our bumblebee. Once your wings are finished, our next stop, there he is, isn't he cute? See how his wings sit off of him? We are going to work on building the base of our bumblebee. With this design, we are going to need our large oval hoop so that we can quilt. If you're quilting, you can use the large oval. If you are not quilting in the hoop, then you can do this design in the your medium hoop, the hoop we just used. We are going to be opening and adding the Spring 7 4x4 design to your hoop, and then we are going to add the bumblebee, and we're going to align them so that they are centered. Okay, so just as a reminder, here is my Spring 7 design here. There is the 4x4 Spring 7 design. I am going to add my bumblebee to the middle. Now, when we open that design and we open it, and the system is automatically going to put it in center of hoop. So you don't need to do any movement in order to get things to be centered. So as long as I don't move the base quilting, when I add the design, For the bumblebee, it will automatically be centered in the middle of that particular hoop. Okay, we are now going to go through and prep some of our fabrics. You need to take your background fabrics, and we are going to iron a piece of fusible woven lining or fusible woven backing or fusible backing SF101 to the wrong side of all of our background bases. Okay, our bases of our blocks, which is this yellow honeycomb, we're going to apply SF101. We are going to pre-cut our batting. Now, I spoke last month about showing you a slightly different way to do this batting this month. So typically, since our block is going to finish at 4.5, we would be cutting like a 5.5 or 4.5 inch square of batting. I want you this month, if you would like to try it, to cut yourself a 4-inch square of batting. Okay, so when the design, let me show you here, says the Spring 7 4x4 design, that is the size of the batting, okay, that we would be cutting for this project. So I have a 4-inch square of batting. I have the 2 black pieces of fabric out of our kit for the month of April and 1 of the yellow squares for this hooping. So each bumblebee block uses a background, piece of fabric, 2 black, and 1 yellow. You are going to need your black or dark gray thread that you're using. You are also going to need your yellow, and you will need cream. You can return your bobbin thread back to a neutral color because no one's going to see the underside of it. There's no reason to continue to use that cream colored or your good embroidery thread in there. We can set that cream bobbin aside in case we should need it in a later month. And I'm going to go ahead and thread. My machine is still threaded with the cream colored thread because that's where we're going to start, because we need to quilt our project. So I'm going to put my light mesh cutaway into my hoop, and then I'm going to place my hoop onto the machine. Here we go. We are going to run the first color stop directly into the stabilizer, and that is going to be the placement line for our batting. So here is our batting placement line. We would have normally taken a larger piece of batting, laid it down on top, tacked it down, and then we would be trimming this close to the edge. If we start with a piece of batting that is pretty much the exact size of that square right there, we can skip that step of trimming the batting. Now I'm going to put a little bit of Elmer's glue or regular washable glue stick, nothing permanent. I just want something to hold that in place so that it doesn't move around on me, okay? Because I'm then going to take my background fabric and I'm going to place my background fabric over top of it, making sure that we are kind of centered. We've got the same amount above and below. Remember, this piece is oversized, so we have plenty of room. I'm going to return this back to the machine, and we're going to skip some color stops. Okay. So the next color stop 2, we don't need, okay, because color stop 2 is going to be the one that stitches around the batting. Would be our batting tack down. Up the machine screen here so I can show you the color stops that we're going to skip. So remember, color stop 1 is the one that we just stitched that told us where to put that piece of batting. Color stop 2 would be what would normally have tacked that batting down, and we would then trim up to that edge. Well, we don't need to because our batting is the size it needs to be. There's nothing to trim. So we'd go to color stop 3. Color stop 3 would be that color stop that told us where to put our fabric. Now, if you're not comfortable just laying your fabric down there, you can absolutely run that and then put your fabric in place. But if you are comfortable, you can skip 3, and we're going to go right to color stop 4, which is going to be what tacks our background down to the hoop, covering up and keeping that batting in place. Right, there is color stop 4 is complete. Our batting is now trapped under our fabric. Our fabric is tacked to the hoop. I saved myself one set of trimming for this project, and our next color stop is going to quilt our background. Staying in the cream colored thread, go ahead and hit go. Now, once your background quilting is complete, you are going to change out your top thread to the black or dark gray, whichever one you're using. For me, that's Isocord 4174, and we're going to stitch our bumblebee's legs and antenna. Once your antenna are complete and your legs, you are going to work on appliquing and trimming one piece of the black fabric. We're going to do the body of our bee first. So we're going to run the placement line. We're going to place this piece of fabric right side up. There's no right or wrong to the one that was in the kit, but right side up, and then we will tack it in place and trim it. Once we are trimmed, we're going to return it to the machine, staying in the dark black or dark gray color, and we're going to run the decorative outline around this piece. When our black body is decorative stitched, we are now going to change to the yellow thread. We are going to run our placement line. We are going to place the yellow fabric with the dotted stripe running top to bottom over top of those placement lines. Okay, we will then tack it down, trim around both sections. So these are two individual sections here that we have, and then we are going to run the color stop to run the decorative stitch around that yellow fabric. We will then return back to the black thread and work on our bee's head. Your yellow is complete. We are going to go back to your black dark gray thread. We are going to work through appliquing the final piece of fabric, which should be a black square. We're going to run the placement line. Place the fabric right side up over top of that area. We're going to tack it in place. We are going to trim it, and then we will return it to the machine and stitch the decorative stitch around that piece of fabric. Now, when your decorative stitch around that piece is complete, we need to run a placement line so that we know where to put our wings. So we're going to run this line. It's going to be, we're going to run this color stop, and it's going to stitch two horizontal lines with a vertical line in the middle. And then that is going to be where we center up our dried dimensional wings, and then we'll return it back over to the machine and tack it in place. I doubt you're going to be able to see it because of the color that it is. Let me zoom in here. You may be able to see it just a little bit There's 2 lines right there, and there's a line in the middle. We're going to take our wings here. I'm going to put a piece of tape on each side of the wing. We want to leave this section open, okay, because this is where the stitching is going to happen. So you can see right there. So we're going to line up the top and bottom should be on the top and bottom of this section, and we should be centered in the middle of our bumblebee like that. Okay, and then we're going to carefully return him to the machine, and we're going to run the final color stop. Now you may want to slow your machine down for this color stop because it is going to be stitching over some thickness, and you may have a tendency to want to put your hands there too, so nice and slow. Okay, there our wings are attached. I'm happy with those. We can remove the tape off of our wings, and we can take our block out of the hoop, and then we're going to go over and trim him up. Both of our bees are going to be trimmed to a 4.5-inch square. Okay, that should be the size of the lines around the stitched line in the background fabric for you to use as the trim line. I'm also going to use my orange pop rulers just to make sure that I stay centered on those lines. So I'm going to take my 4.5-inch orange pop here. I'm going to set him down so he pretty much touches my stitched line in the fabric. I'm going to take my one size bigger. I'll put my magnets on it on my rotating mat here, and I am going to rotate and trim all 4 edges to trim this down to a 4.5-inch square. There are our bumblebees. Okay. We have our little dimensional wings and everything that are there for them as well. That is your April block project for the Wallflower Mystery Quilt. We have 2 of them to make, and then you can put them back inside of your April baggie if you like, or join them to your stack of completed blocks. And here is your hint for May. Up, I see pink, got a little bit of green. We have an outdoor pinwheel. So that should give you a little bit of food for thought in reference to what you're going to see come up for the month of May. Well, thank you everyone so much for joining us today, and I hope that you have a great month stitching out this month's bee blocks for our Wallflower Mystery Quilt. And I look forward to seeing you back here next month to reveal our May block. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day.